The cool thing about pastels, they're dry pigment, they're beautiful colors, but I love blending pastel with pastel. So a lot of artists, a lot of talented pastel artists have these skills of blending with their fingers. They'll do a little bit and blend it. The way I work is I blend pastel into pastel, and with these soft handmade pastels it works great. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. And I am going to have to go in and do a little bit of blending with my fingers in a moment. And I'm lightly doing this, just a little bit of pressure, and that gave me that nice gradation. I don't want to go in and outline, but I do want a crisp edge there. So I'm going to come in and just lay this on its side, very careful to not have it too delineated. I like this natural painted look. I'm going to do that, kind of break that up. And I'm losing my green, but I can bring that back in later. And this is when it's great to have that practice paper. I could even come into my newsprint that I did with Conte and just do some practicing, some warming up, layering colors. All right, now I don't need to worry about blending as much down here, but I am going to come in. This is a little bit of a brighter sky color, so I'm going to bring in this central highlight here and try to do a little bit more definition here. One of the best tips I can give, whether you are working from a photograph, a landscape in front of you, or a figure, is to draw or paint what you see, not what you think you see. So I know that there are rocks here and the water is going over these rocks, but if I try to do what I think it is, it's not going to look right. Instead, I'm coming in and I'm drawing or painting in the highlights and the shadows and the motion. And in the end, whether it looks like it now or not, it will resemble this much better than if I try to make it like I think it should be. And I hope that makes sense. All right, and see how a little bit of this is coming through? That works really well. Okay. I want to get rid of some of the gray. I'm going to do some blending soon. No clouds in the sky. Just going to do a nice little gradation here. So I'm getting this is working. I'm getting the reflection. Now this area and this area are really undefined. What I need to do is figure out what I'm going to do with these greens before I do the rest of it. So I need to come in with a dark. And again, just using it on its side, giving kind of an impression here. And maybe the point a little bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and drag that over, and I'll have the dark come out in a moment. The dark will show through with the color I put it on top of it. There's some rocks here. And, really look for the shadows and highlights, And so there's this overhang here, so I want to suggest that. There's some shadows. That's actually mostly in shadow, which means that is going to be in shadow because this is a surface of water here that's reflected, so it's really important that I address them at the same time or close to the same time. I'm going to put just a little bit of that in for the dark. And bring in a little bit of this green in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and use this green since I have it to define this edge of the water. Again, not outlining, but I need to really suggest where that edge is. All right. Didn't like the way that happened, so all I have to do is take the pastel back over it, and that fixed that. That's one of the things I absolutely love about pastel. it has a lot of forgiveness to it. And if people just would loosen up a little bit more, they would be a lot happier with the pieces in the end. And even if you want to do really realistic pastels, if you start out looser and then keep getting it crisper and more defined as you're going, you can still use these techniques even if you don't like the loose painterly style. Okay. Now the house the building here, I haven't done much with, so I need to go back in and just suggest some edges. And there's a little bit of texture happening. Again, I don't want to delineate, but I want to suggest, so I'm just going to mark that in. There's some boards here as well. I can actually use the side for a little bit delineation there. And now it is really leaning. You can also use a maul stick. You can use a ruler to lay against and brace your hand if you want to. And I'm going to go ahead and suggest some of those down there. Okay, back to this. Red and green are complements, and that's too bright, so I'm going to come in with this darker green. And this is where you have to have a really light touch. A friend of mine is a plein air painter, and she will often lay a towel down underneath the easel, and that's both to find a pastel that got dropped, and it also helps to cushion the blow. I have dropped these occasionally, and then they shatter, so that helps. And if you're out in a grassy field or you've got a lot of stuff down there, you can find what just went down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and push this back. And by push it back, I mean dark. I'm adding the dark, so that really helps me to push that back. And I step back from it. And in my photo, I have a lot of plant here, but that wasn't working as well. So now I need to come in. There's a lot of dark here, so I need to come in and bring this in. Again, the reflection. Now I mentioned a little bit about surprise color. Another thing I really like about pastel is when you pick a color that is a lot brighter or a different color than you see in that picture or in front of you. And so here I've picked this orange, this red orange, and this is going to give me a little bit of pop. And that is one of the things you saw just when I put that in. It really helps to bring that out and create that contrast. The thing about surprise color is you don't want to use it everywhere. Then it won't be a surprise anymore. And again, you'll see me stepping back a lot, especially once I get about halfway through the second half of a painting. I always like to step back a lot. Now, this is very strong on the left side. There's a lot of dark, there's a lot of bright over here. So what I want to do is just add a little bit of this color here. And then I'll come in and just do a little pop. Now, just a little bit. That was probably too much, but I can come back in and cover it up. Okay, and you're starting to get a feel here for the water.